Founding a software company is very cool and everybody likes doing it, but what does it take to actually become the best in your industry, to lead the market? What do you need to do in order to do that? Well, fortunately, I spoke with somebody who has done exactly that. Stephen Webster, he's the CEO and founder of Asensei. He's done some great things, and actually his company before Asensei became the leader. He says accidentally. He actually did some great things, and I asked him what those were. He shares what he did in a step-by-step and what he's thinking about doing here with Asensei that has made him extremely successful already and where their success is going to come from next. So if you want to watch, if you want to learn a step-by-step of how to start, grow, scale, and exit a software company, this is a good one to listen to.
Welcome to Scale Your SaaS, the podcast that gives you proven techniques and formulas for boosting your revenue and achieving your dream exit. Brought to you by a guy who's done just that multiple times. Here's your host, Matt Wolach.
Hello, welcome to Scale Your SaaS. We are here to make sure you can do exactly that. So you can generate a whole bunch of great leads, you can close those leads, and you can accelerate your company with a team that helps you do it. If you want any of those things, definitely subscribe to the show right now. That way you're going to get all the best tips and ideas and ways of generating amazing amounts of business. What we do is we talk with experts around the world who have done that, who have created a scalable SaaS, who have grown that company, who have done great things in the SaaS world. And one of those experts is here with us today. I've got Stephen Webster with me. Stephen, how you doing?
Matt, good to see you. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Good to see you as well. Let me make sure everybody knows who you are, Stephen, because you got an awesome background here. So Stephen, he's the CEO and founder of Asensei. Asensei, it's a fast-growing software platform that is the easiest way for sport, fitness, and health companies to add movement recognition and coaching intelligence to their digital touchpoints. Stephen specializes in creating high-performing cross-functional teams, leveraging design thinking to achieve unprecedented results across various markets. He has successfully built and sold startups to Macromedia, Adobe, and led multi-million-dollar projects at Adobe and Microsoft. This guy is an expert, and I cannot wait to learn from his experience. Stephen, thank you so much for being here.
Likewise, Matt. Likewise.
So tell me, what's been going on with you lately?
You know, Asensei is at an interesting point. We launched our SDK kind of 21, 22. So basically, we're an ingredient brand. You know, people that build digital health, fitness, sport products, put our technology inside theirs to give that movement recognition and movement understanding. We're like speech recognition for movement. And so we've kind of gone through a period of winning customers. To your point, it's like, how do you go out and get those first wins and the repeat wins and the wins that look like the last win, so everything's not like an art installation that's different every time. But we're at a really interesting point now that, we have like decent number of double-digit customers all about to put products into market with our technology. And so I'm excited about what our customers are doing for their customers. I mean, we've got smart mirrors hanging on the wall in my gym with cameras tracking your workout. We've got dumbbells that recognize what weight you've lifted and automatically track your reps. We're working with Navy SEALs who are training people for the basic military fitness test to become a service member, and using Asensei as a validation, so you can submit your fitness test results and they're kind of authenticated and validated. We've been working in VR headsets and doing kind of, a trainer just appears in your room in mixed reality.
Wow.
So yeah, our customers are just doing really cool stuff, and they're the ones that are kind of telling us, this is what we need the product to do next. This is how it needs to work. And it's, it's an exciting time. It's really exciting time.
That's super exciting. That's one of the things I love about the software world. And I work with a lot of different companies and coach a lot of different companies. And there's just so many different ways of creating technology that helps people. And that is such a unique idea. And it just sounds so amazing. Sounds like people absolutely need that. But what gave you the idea to start the company? Where did that come from? We'll be right back. Hey, it's Matt. If you're anything like me, you check your website analytics and you see people coming to your site, but you have no idea who they are or what they're doing. Plus, why aren't they converting into leads? That's why I now use Lead Feeder. This thing is slick. Lead Feeder is a tool that shows me which companies are coming to my site, plus which pages they visited and in which order. So I can see their interest level just by what they're doing. You can use it too. You can track your site visitors' behavior and integrate the data from Lead Feeder with your CRM that helps make your lead generation efforts more targeted. The result, website traffic converts to sales. Click the link in the description and go to leadfeeder.com for a free demo and get a free extended premium trial when you let the rep know that you heard Lead Feeder through the Scale Your SaaS podcast. Finally know who's visiting your site with Lead Feeder. Do it. And we're back.
You know, it's a whole bunch of different things, right? I mean, just going all the way back. I'll start when I was 4 years old, Matt. I've always played sport. You know, sport and fitness have just, I wouldn't even say fitness because I got my fitness by accident just by playing sport. And that was team sports like soccer and hockey. It was individual sports like swimming. But the sports or the activities that I enjoyed best and I was best at were martial arts. First jiu-jitsu and then karate. So when I went to study at university, 91 to 95. That's when I was, I first, learned karate. I competed, I captained the team. I ended up coaching the team for over a decade.
That's amazing.
So that was so I'll kind of, just summarize there a love of coaching human performance and a love of coaching sport. And a love of learning as well as coaching. It's a little cliched, but the best way to learn is to teach. So that's happening. At the same time, I'm studying computer science and electronics, and I've always been, just technology has always been fun for me, not work, but fun, right? As many of us, I'm sure. And even as a kid, I wanted a red light on my hockey goals that would go off when the ball hit the back of the net. I wanted a light on my punch bag that would tell me, my reaction time as I was hitting it. But let's fast forward to maybe kind of 2011, 2012. I'm at Microsoft. I'm working with teams like Microsoft Connect. I'm working with intelligent agents in the early stages of AI we called it from GUI to NUI, from graphical to natural user interfaces, speech and gesture. Mm-hmm. So you just throw all of that into a cauldron, like this kind of sports coach guy that's, wearables happening and flexible electronics are happening and, machine cognition and perception is coming online. And I just had a moment at Microsoft of, I got to start this company. I see a future where sport and fitness and healthcare will be something we'll do unsupervised without an expert in the room. And so somebody has to give perception and understanding to the machine. Again, my cliche is we need to give athletic intelligence to artificial intelligence. And as anyone that started a company knows, the second you have the idea and you have conviction on it, it's quickly followed by terror that surely 10 other people have this idea as well. And so as you and I spoke before the show, I quit my job at the top of Snowmass Mountain, skied down, started Asensei.
So Snowmass in Colorado, my home state, as many of you out there in the audience know that, but that's very cool.
It's the easiest mountain.
Yeah. I do have to ask, you said hockey. Now, as everyone can hear, you are a true Scot. There's not a lot of ice hockey in Scotland. Are you talking field hockey?
So, fact. Scotland is where NHL players go to kind of pasture. So I grew up in the ice rink.
Really?
Both my uncles, two of my uncles, played for Team Great Britain. One was the netminder, one captained. I went to my local hockey game every Saturday evening. My dad still does. And the rules on imports where you were allowed 3, non-British players in your team. And so I kind of grew up knowing the celebrities in town because my uncles coached them and played with them. But all these kind of former NHL players that, we thought they were amazing, these stars from the NHL, and they were probably 10th round picks. But yeah, I grew up skating and playing hockey. So ice hockey and street hockey,
Awesome.
not field hockey.
That's fantastic. I also was a hockey player all the way through college. So it's a soft spot in my heart for other hockey players, but I've never met someone from Scotland who played hockey. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay. So back to the good stuff. I want to understand a little bit more about, you made this transition, Microsoft, then you become an entrepreneur. Wow. What a shift. Like, you're working for this big corporation and now all of a sudden you're on your own. What was that shift like? What told you it was okay to make that shift? Because we have a lot of people who are already doing it, but we also have a lot of listeners who they're thinking about becoming a software founder. They're thinking about starting. What told you now is the time and I can do this?
I'd done it before. Like as you mentioned up front, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I entered the technology industry. I graduated in 1995, worked as a chip designer for 3 or 4 years. But then kind of 99, 2000, like .com happened. And when you were in the UK, you're living in the UK, it's happening kind of bigger in America, but we had some big, .com successes in Europe as well. And I wanted to be a part of that. So I first made the transition into kind of .com and software. But then any of us that had jobs around 2001 also didn't have jobs around 2001. There was a lot. So I got laid off like 3 or 4 times as companies went under, and just that, it was messy. And so I accidentally was like, I might as well just, be a software contractor. And then I had a buddy join me because the project was too big. And then we accidentally built a company and we accidentally became industry leaders in Adobe Macromedia technologies for desktop UIs delivered over the internet. And so before you know it, we're partnering with Macromedia. They're getting acquired by Adobe. We're getting acquired by Adobe. So I'd done it before. Adobe was fantastic. It's still like one of my fondest places to work. The people, the technology, the culture of the company. Microsoft, I was getting itchy. I was like, I'm in a big company. I want to do something. I was getting very excited by wearable and, everything that was happening. I was kind of, poached, I guess, headhunted into Microsoft to start something new. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking I want to start another company. But then I decided the best bootstrap financing would be go and just, make some money at Microsoft for 3 or 4 years and figure out what I wanted to do. But yeah, listen, it's hard. You can, you do very well at a company like Microsoft financially. You think you're working hard, but you've no idea what hard work is until you kind of try and start a company. But I'd never started a venture-backed company before as well. And here I am, like a entrepreneur that's done it before, but now I'm in the Bay Area, and apparently you just walk into a coffee shop and you can raise $10 million, right? So I kind of just, it's the athlete and competitor in me. I was like, I want to take a shot at the title. Can I do this? Most importantly, I was just deeply attached to the problem I wanted to solve. Like, I got that moment, no joke, at the top of Snowmass Mountain. I was like, I got to do this. Like, this thing has to exist in the world. Just like speech recognition, movement recognition has to exist in the world.
I love it. You're definitely an innovator, that's for sure. You did say earlier that you accidentally became industry leader. I think that's being a bit modest. I'm sure you did some really good things. So help us out. What were some of those things, Stephen, that you did in that first, entrepreneurial position and that first company that really helped you guys become that industry leader?
I think it was a couple of things. My first .com experience was online banking. So I helped put some of the first online banks in Europe online. And those of us that remember that, horrific user experiences. Everything was a form. Click a button, wait 30 seconds for the page to render, click another button, next page. So I used to describe it in sales as it was like reading a book through a straw. That's what the online experience was like, right? I haven't said that in 20 years. Like reading a book through a straw. I used to say it 20 times a day. But then when I worked on online banking, we were really trying to solve this idea of like, how can we have desktop like software like Windows? We're in the world of probably like Windows NT at this point. We're used to drag and drop and Windows and mouse and pointer. And the problem I was searching for a solution for was, how can we get that level of interactivity, but in a browser? And at the time, this insane idea that I had was, what about Macromedia Flash that was getting used for cartoons and games? Could we build UIs with Macromedia Flash, but connect them to enterprise backends like IBM WebSphere or J2EE or .NET? And so I decided I would tell Pearson Publishing that I'd solved it. Full disclosure, I had not. And I wrote a book, which was basically, in hindsight, documenting my learning as I went, with a publishing deadline. But it meant that by the time I'd figured out how to do it, I was also the author of the only book on how to do it.
Amazing.
That really, in hindsight, positioned our team as, these are the guys. These guys wrote the book on rich internet applications that then became known as internet applications. And now today we call them applications, right? It's just software on the web. But
it's really cool.
We're there first, yeah.
That's so awesome. And I think, so the lesson we can take from that is, be your personal brand. Like, get people to recognize who you are, your expertise, get people to look up to you in the industry, and they'll want to follow and do what you're doing and buy your stuff. And I've seen that all over the place. That's the first time I've heard it where you actually wrote the book for the industry on that thing, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. But it just goes to speak that get yourself out there, start sharing your experiences, start sharing value. Now, most people are doing blogs and videos and all that kind of thing, podcasts like we're doing now, and people will look up to you and people will follow you. And it's a very natural thing that I've seen many times. It's happened with me. It's happened with my clients. And it sounds like you really encapsulated that. And that is one of the main things that helped you become the industry leader, right?
And that's something we've transferred to Asensei. I mean, my co-founders, I knew them. I've known both my co-founders for like over 30 years at this point, but we've all played sport or spent a bunch of time on the mat beating each other up in karate or jiu-jitsu. So that coaching DNA is in the leadership team, and not in every hire in the company. It's not like you can't work at the company unless you have an athletic background. But my VP of sales, deep credibility as not just in the wearable technology in the motion capture world, but he's been a strength and conditioning trainer. He's got a master's in kinesiology. So it's interesting. Very often our customers will say, we came to you for the technology, but we stayed for your know-how around coaching and human performance. So the domain expertise is as if not more important than the technology expertise. The technology makes it happen, but you really need to understand your customer's problem, and that's not a technology problem. It's a domain problem.
Yeah, well said. That's step one. Understand your customer and their problems, and you can build the tech to it. You can build your marketing messaging around it. You can build your sales process around it, and everything just works from that foundation. So I'm glad you guys found that. That's awesome. So, okay, so we got this launch. Asensei, it's doing its thing. You launched. Now you're in the early days. How do you get it off the ground? You've got an MVP. You've got a product. How do you get people to actually start using it? What did you guys do to get that early traction?
So there's advice I didn't take, which I'll share. But the advice given to me actually by Jeffrey Moore, who wrote Crossing the Chasm, the category design book. I had the good fortune of working with Jeff twice, first at Adobe, then at Microsoft. It was his team that took me to Microsoft, actually. And Jeff's advice to me when I started the company was, find a customer and treat it as a project. Like, don't build a product, build a project, and then go and find another project that's the same, and then start to extract some IP out of your projects that become the kernel of the product. Fantastic advice, which of course I didn't follow. So do what Jeff said. But what we did is, and I don't think we did the wrong thing, I'm being a little flippant, is we were trying to imagine a future that didn't exist yet, and people didn't understand what it looked like. What would it look like when a machine can watch you, pitch a baseball or swing a baseball bat or do Pilates or do yoga, and the machine understands what you're doing and gives you feedback in real time, and coaches you. It was hard for people to imagine. We all know the movie Her with Scarlett Johansson. It's kind of popular again because of ChatGPT. But I remember investors knocking us back. One of the founders of Wired magazine knocked us back because this just seems like Her. It just seems impossible. It was like we're inventing that. So we actually went B2C even though we wanted to be B2B, but we picked one sport and we actually built an app around that sport so that we were direct to consumer and we could kind of show the world what the future would look like. We chose indoor rowing because like it was niche and nobody cared. And if we messed it up, it wouldn't be a disaster. But also because we felt our technology could have real impact. Because in rowing, your technique and your form, good form is free speed. So, the technique and form is important. So that was a slightly different approach, maybe unorthodox, maybe not for everybody, but we, something I learned at Adobe was like, you really have to walk in the shoes of the end user. That's the design thinking, is like really have empathy with the end user. And so we did that first and then work back towards our technology stack.
And I think it's critical. Just for everybody out there, if you're creating a company and you weren't an expert in that industry like Steven was, you can still learn that and understand, like you said, what they're walking through and what their experiences are. You just have to have the conversations. You have to talk to your market. You have to learn from them directly. And there's no replacing that. And everybody I talk to who's had any sort of success, they understood their market on a deep level in some way or another. Either they were that person or they start talking to them. They start having those conversations. It's really a must. And so it sounds like you agree. Yeah, awesome. So tell me, as we wrap, and this has been really, really fantastic, what advice would you share for other software leaders who are getting started and they're thinking, okay, how am I going to become that industry leader like Steven did?
I mean, it's funny. There's kind of an oxymoron there, like getting started as a leader. You don't get started as a leader, right? So I think advice I would share would be like, entrepreneur is not a career path. It's not a job title. It describes a state of mind. It's a willingness to take on disproportionate risk, but it's not a job title. So, if you imagine that one day you'd love the idea of running a company, of building a company, I learned a hell of a lot working for Adobe. I learned a hell of a lot working for Cadence Design Systems. I learned a lot at Microsoft. And it wasn't just the core skill. I talk about this in sport coaching and I talk about this in business, is you want to become what's known as a T-shaped person. The T is like, what's your strong core? I'm an engineer, so I've got a very strong core as an engineer. I can toe-to-toe, it's been a while, but I can still go toe-to-toe with engineers. I can explain, technology at a deep level to the right audience. But what's that bar across the top of the T? I learned sales. I learned solution sales. I learned product sales. I learned pricing. I learned marketing. I hired people. I fired people. I performance managed people. And these are all super important skills that I believe are not best learned the first time you're in a venture-backed startup and it's your own money and your own salary. Like, learn them on Microsoft's dime, learn them on Adobe's dime or Stripe's dime or Tesla's dime. And then I think you'll be well positioned for the role of being a leader, which is not about how good are you at your central pillar, but how much have you cross-trained and understand, like, I have to run a marketing team, I have to run a sales team, I have to run a customer care team, I have to speak with HR professionals in different countries and all of that is me applying skill learned outside of Asensei, not inside of Asensei.
I think it's genius. I love that model. I've heard that before, and I completely agree with it. And you just explained it really, really well. So I hope everybody out there was taking notes, getting all that down, because that was fantastic. Steven, this has been awesome. I want to make sure our audience can learn more about you and Asensei. How can they best do that?
LinkedIn, I think that's the platform that we love to share the most on. So follow me on LinkedIn. Or follow the company on LinkedIn. We tend to post more from our individual accounts because, more people follow people. People don't follow brands. So find me on LinkedIn. Stephen Webster is I'm an early user. I got the name. So
you got the first one. Nice.
Follow me. And we just love to share what we're doing. We'll show off the tech that we're working on. We'll talk about our customers and the problems they're solving. And we'll get a little bit philosophical from time to time. So I'd love to connect and engage with people there.
Perfect. We'll put all that into the show notes. So if you're listening, go grab it, go follow Steven there, get all his good stuff. Steven, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all this with us.
No, of course. And thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Pleasure was mine as well. Everybody out there, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss out on any other amazing stories and experience of how to grow a software company like you just heard from Stephen. So subscribe, and then we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Scale Your SaaS. For more help on finding great leads and closing more deals, go to mattwolach.com.